John F. Kennedy once said that physical fitness is not only one of the most important keys to a healthy body, it is the basis of creative and dynamic intellectual activity. This shows how physical activity is important both creatively, intellectually, and physically. The former of the two people may not realize as much. So think about the people surrounding you in everyday life. Think about how many of those people could have benefited from physical activity, whether it would have been creatively, intellectually, or physically. And now think about the people who have benefited from it. The people who have a healthy body, who are more creative and more quick thinking. You can also think about the people who are older now and have more issues in life that can be attributed to lack of physical activity, whether it was in childhood or throughout their life as a whole. And so I will discuss what physical activity is, the benefits of it, and what issues can be caused by lack of it. The World Health Organization defines physical activity as any bodily movement produced by skeletal muscles that requires energy expenditure. In layman's terms, physical activity is any activity which moderately or vastly increases your heart rate. So this begs the question, how do scientists differentiate between different levels of physical activity? I mean, how do we differentiate between walking and sprinting and lifting weights? Those are three vastly different activities, but under these definitions, they're categorized as the same. So scientists determined that there are three types of physical activity. Three types of physical activity include light intensity activity, moderately intense activity, and vigorously intense activity. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 MET equals the energy or oxygen used while sitting quietly. Physical activity that burns 3 to 5.9 METs is moderately intense, and physical activity that burns 6 METs or more is of vigorous intensity. Anything below 3 METs is of light intensity. So the CDC developed a talk test, an easier way of determining how physically active someone is being. Somebody undergoing a moderately intense physical activity will be able to talk but not sing during that activity. And somebody who is performing a vigorously intense activity will neither be able to talk or sing while doing that activity without having to take a breath every few moments. Somebody who's undergoing a lightly intense physical activity will be able to talk and sing while doing that activity. So now that we've gone over the types of physical activity, let's look at the benefits of these separate types. According to the National Library of Medicine, light intensity physical activity plays a role in improving adult cardiometabolic health and reducing mortality risks. Frequent short bouts of light activity can also improve glycemic control. And according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, getting at least 150 minutes a week of moderate physical activity can put you at a lower risk for cardiovascular disease. It can also lower the risk of developing some common cancers. And finally, a study conducted by April J. Ho and Cyrus A. Raji, who both have experience in neuroscience, revealed that physical activity resulted in a 2 to 2.5% greater brain tissue increase in those who were physically active. There are many benefits to physical activity, and there's no downside to it. There's no reason you shouldn't be physically active. There are only benefits. And who doesn't like benefits? Finally, this returns us to the original point, the true reasons why people, and children specifically, need to be physically active in their everyday life. And there are numerous consequences to children not getting enough physical activity. For instance, children who are not physically active risk being overweight in the present and future, which will be hard to control later in life, which can also result in children being lazy, leading to even more problems and causing them to be less physically active as a whole, leading to even more problems. This creates a spiral of problems for people who aren't physically active, because it's tougher to be physically active later in life than it is to be physically active as a young child. And finally, physical inactivity directly affects the health of children, causing them to have increased chances of cardiovascular disease, be more susceptible to respiratory diseases, and have an increased chance of mind altering diseases such as Alzheimer's and dementia. This was shown in the studies by April J. Ho and Cyrus A. Raji as well. At the end of the day, nobody can force you to make your children physically active. In the same sense, nobody can force you to make your children eat vegetables, and nobody can force you to make your children healthy. However, when viewed from this latter perspective, the situation seems more important. Parents should not. This is not saying that parents need to force their children to be more physically active. It is merely saying that it would benefit the child later in life and even in the present, as it would help develop their brain, it would reduce risk for diseases and issues later in life, and it would make it easier for them to be physically active later in life should they choose to do so. So, parents should force their children to be more physically active. Although these children may not appreciate it now, they will later in life when these issues aren't occurring to them, when they see other people having these issues but they are okay. And what parent doesn't want their child to be okay?